What basic children's age level fact did you only find out embarrassingly later in life? My 31-year-old girlfriend thought islands don't touch the bottom of the ocean. A US congressman asked in an official hearing if too many people would cause Guam to tip over. Can confirm this is a thing. Was a kayak / surf / snorkel guide in Hawaii, and a staggering amount of people asked me where / how long it would take to swim under the island. Never really thought about it, but always imagined them floating in my head. My grandma always made me eat the crust of my bread because it has the most nutrients. In college, when I told my younger cousin that in front of my grandma, she laughed and said, "I only told you that so you wouldn't waste the crust." Similarly, that if you turn the lights on and off too fast you'll start a fire. Once I became a parent I realized it's just a way to stop kids from being annoying. My mom told me eating the crust would make my hair curly. I have super pin straight hair. Haha, only tangentially related. But when I was very young I asked my dad why we don't eat the end pieces of a loaf of bread and throw them away instead. Because they give you cancer, was his response. It wasn't until I was 16 or 17 that I realized my dad was being a smartass. I count myself lucky I never had the opportunity to share what I had learned before figuring it out. I think for the lights it's a little bit of both actually. Switches are designed to make a quick solid connection. While it's making contact going from on / off, it can gap and melt away the metal contacts. With some cheap switches you can hear it sizzling if you hold the switch in a half on / off position. Older houses would have tons of flammable things in the walls / air, making the gapping more of a problem. A lot of myths formed around electricity because a lot of it wasn't understood, and this might be one of them. I think the old myths might have been the inspiration for telling children to not be annoying though. A few years ago I was searching for different classical pieces in Spotify, getting frustrated that every version Spotify had of works by composers like Beethoven and Bach were covers performed by modern orchestras. My idiot brain was looking for original recordings from the 18th century until it finally realized how dumb that was. If you're interested, look up historically informed performance practice or something similar. There are a lot of orchestras and other groups that use period instruments and attempt to recreate the playing styles of the time. Tafel music comes to mind as a great place to start. And if you like opera, check out Philip Jarowski, New Realities from Tchaikovsky, the 2021 Overture. Once when I was 17 I was losing my mind trying to find cupcake mix in the baking aisle, only to then have the epiphany that cupcakes are just small cakes. In a similar vein, once in Home Depot my wife and I needed to get a gallon of paint. We were strolling down the aisle looking at the different finishes, and my wife points out the one we need. So I say, "Great. Now we just need to find the color paints." She nearly fell over laughing. It was just a brain fart. We've bought plenty of paint before. I've seen it mixed. But, Christ, did I feel dumb. Mini cupcakes? As in the mini version of regular cupcakes, which is already a mini version of cake. Honestly, where does it end with you people? Kevin Malone. I was 23 when I learned I was allergic to apples. Someone was complaining about their throat closing up after smoking, and I responded with, "Oh yeah, like when you eat an apple." You can imagine how the conversation went from there. A friend of mine learned he was allergic to bananas when his mom asked why he didn't want one, and he said he just wasn't in the mood for a spicy fruit. We were at least teenagers. This happened to me but with avocados. Love guacamole and would power through the itchy, swelling feeling because, well, that's just how avocado makes your mouth feel. And my friend gave me the "oh sweetie." Lol. Okay, so I grew up on a small farm. We had cows, chickens, pig, rabbits and goats and more. On occasion we had to shear the goats. The goats would hold very still when being sheared, like statues still. I saw this on pretty regular occasion. When my parents would take me to get a haircut they would tell the barber to give me a billy goat cut. Of course to me this meant hold really still. So I did. Had the same barber for a long time. Eventually he passed when I was in high school, leaving me to find a new barber. Imagine my and the new barber's surprise when he said, "How do you want it cut?" And I said, "I just want a normal billy goat cut." This is one of those things that makes me cringe at night. When I was little I didn't know what sideburns were called. Mister, Rogers came on TV and I pointed at his sideburn and asked my mom, what is this called? I just heard her answer, Rogers. And for some reason I never made the connection that was also his name. I was in college and I said something about having to push my Rogers back. Everyone thought I was insane. In my head they are still Rogers, or geez. I just wanna hug you. My mom used to tell me the car doesn't start if the seatbelts aren't buckled. Didn't know that wasn't a real feature until I was 22. Yes, and please keep the truth to yourself around every child I drive places. Also don't tell them it's not illegal for anyone under 18 to peel a banana in a car. A pony is not a baby horse. I'm 47. And learned that less than a decade ago. My partner, who grew up on a farm, had to teach me, a city girl, this in my mid-20s. I had a master's degree. Told my parents this story. My mom was shocked that I didn't know that. My dad was shocked that a pony is not a baby horse. This is the first one that was new to me too. You can't just say that and not tell us what a pony is. Reindeer are a real animal. When I found out about Father Christmas I thought that meant reindeer weren't real. I was very much an adult when I was very confused and excited to see one in real life. Have a fun fact, both male and female reindeer have antlers. I'm from Australia, where we have a very summery Christmas. We still get the traditional images and movies, etc. plastered around the place, but we also grow up with a hot version of Christmas and assume everything else we see is a mixture of what the rest of the world experiences or is part of the magic and therefore not real. My husband is from England and we went back to visit his family a few Christmases ago. While we were shopping in the town square we visited a display to celebrate the occasion and I couldn't believe that I was seeing real actual reindeer that actually existed. Everyone around me thought I was crazy. But I was a kid again and all the magic of Christmas was real again. I had to tell my aunt, at the age of 60, that cats and dogs cannot interbreed and create some sort of hybrid cat dog. She didn't believe me at first. So I had to tell her lots of half people half sheep would be running around if that was the case. She's right actually. Here's an interesting documentary about it, point link. I'm from Pennsylvania. When they do the nightly lottery drawings on TV, they always add a reminder at the end. Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day. So, naturally, I just assumed that a lot of elderly people won the lottery. When I was a teen I made a joke to my dad about him turning 50 and having a better shot at winning the lottery. And he looked at me like I was nuts. Turns out that benefits older Pennsylvanians every day means that the lottery is a fundraiser for senior services. And here I was thinking that it meant grandma was winning millions on her scratch-offs. Similarly, I often hear about donating your car or boat to a charity who helps adults with intellectual disabilities. I truly thought they were giving the cars and boats to the actual people. It took me an embarrassingly long time before I realized that when a movie had a blurb from Rolling Stone, it wasn't the Rolling Stones reviewing it. I spent much too much of my life thinking the Rolling Stones created Rolling Stone the publication. One of my mates from my master's grad school didn't know that there were male and female chickens. He thought roosters and hens were different breeds. The same went for cows. He justifies hating cheese because he thought cow's milk was cow urine. We had to explain to him that piss is not stored in the udders and also asked him what he thought happened when human mothers breastfed newborns. Piss ain't stored in the tits, mate. We were 24 at the time. Tim, if you're reading this you were way smarter than me at neuro-ophthalmology lol. Edit. I can't believe my most awarded comment is about cow piss. Thanks for the gold plus silver guys and thanks Tim. Sorry they roasted you, haha. Piss ain't stored in the tits. Mate is my new Discord status. Tim, if you're reading this, pee is stored in the balls. I went to Lowe's and in front of everyone asked for strap-ons. The correct word I was looking for was ratchets/tie downs. My dad's not a native English speaker and he calls bungee cords strap-ons. He once asked a poor, unsuspecting Home Depot employee where to find a pack of heavy-duty strap-ons. My cousin's name, growing up, we'd always called her Tori. Always that and nothing else. A couple years ago, well into my 20s, she's visiting and we go to a restaurant. Our waitress comes up and says, "Hi there, my name's Victoria and I'll be taking care of you." My cousin says, "Oh neat. That's my name too." I was surprised by that cause my dumbass never put together that Tori was short for Victoria. So obviously, there were a couple girls named Ally in my grade. So on the first day of 10th grade in homeroom, the teacher is calling roll call. "Is Allison redacted here?" Here one of her best friends whips around in her chair and goes, "Your name is Allison." When I was a kid, I answered the phone when my Aunt Chris was expecting a call, then hung up when the person on the line asked for Christina. I don't know why, but I grew up thinking my Aunt Chris' full name was Christopher. Found out that jackalopes are not real and a creation from taxidermist and other folklore. Was absolutely mind blown and Scooby-Doo betrayed my younger mind. Okay wait, I got a jackalope tattooed on myself back in January and I'm only now finding this out. Edit. To clarify, the tattoo was an original design from the tattoo artist beforehand. I like the concept and the design. I knew jackalopes were a part of American culture, but it didn't really ever dawn on me that they were mythical. Now pass me the crown of stupidity PLS. Picture of the tattoo. Link. OMG, I remember the jackalope thing from Scooby-Doo. I just presumed they were real too. There's no chemical in the pool that reveals pee. A buddy and I were talking about it, and we both realized at the same time that neither of us have actually seen it. We looked it up and felt dumb as hell. And X200B. Edit. Yes. Before you type it out, I know chlorine and pee combined creates that pool smell. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm referring to that mythical chemical they put in a pool that changes color when somebody pisses in the pool water and identifies who peed. That doesn't exist. It's what they tell kids to scare them out of pissing in the pool. The Adam Sandler movie Grown Ups, or maybe its sequel, uses this premise as a gag. I like to think that will help keep this myth alive for another generation. I was a lifeguard for many years and we absolutely told kids that the pee revealing chemical is real. Had my parents put a pool in our backyard when I was in middle school and told us that they added chemicals that reveals pee, and I told literally everyone who came to my house about it, and when I was like 23 I found out it was a lie. Till there's no chemical in the pool that reveals pee, off to the races. Not me, but a friend of mine didn't learn that Martin Luther and Martin Luther King Jr. weren't the same person until college. Exactly. One was the other's dad. I'm an introverted, avid reader. I can't tell you how many basic ass words I mispronounced for years until I heard someone else say them. My daughter does this. She kept talking about some place called Belgium before I realized she meant Belgium. Colonel. I still find myself thinking colonel when I read it. I had my CPA license before I realized pickles are actually cucumbers. CPA. Cucumber and Pickle Association. Amazing. My dad once told me a story how my younger sister's preschool made a polite complaint about the lunches he would make, usually bologna slices and some pickle slices. The school asked that he include some kind of vegetable with the meal. He was just like, WTF, pickles are vegetables. Thought the former leader of North Korea was Kim Jong-il for an embarrassingly long time. I somehow managed to avoid hearing his name said out loud, or written in a serif font. Apparently, they're doing much better now that they're led by that Kim Jong from the UN. Why there are number 10 birthday candles in stores. I was complaining about it with my husband, and he said you're supposed to put 1 and 0 together, and that was the lowest point in my entire life. Edit. So apparently some of you don't understand. I was just in the store with my husband when I saw some candles. I wasn't looking for wedding candles when I was 10. Obviously, I understand that there might be some candles that are 1 and 0 put together, or some variation that goes higher. I was merely saying that I hadn't seen one before. I'm not stupid. It was a simple error that I've only thought about like 5 times. I wasn't forming my entire personality around this one fact, but to those that were civil and jokey, thanks. Y'all are actually really funny. I'm sure I've seen a similar post from someone saying that it was stupid to have a 0 candle because you don't have a cake for the birth. Howdy is short for how do you do. I'm 26 and you just taught me that. Well, I'll be. Coral is an animal. I always thought it was an undersea plant. Coral is an animal? O_O edit. Yes. Coral are indeed marine invertebrates. Edit second according to the messages sent by honest men and women in their pursuit of knowledge. What are some fact clearing things that quite a few enlightened readers have learned so far? And narwhals are very real. B cucumbers are indeed the baby Pokemon form of pickles. C ponies are not the baby Pokemon form of horses. D a lot of us could use r/bony peltier. I incorrectly said the brist of it instead of the gist of it. I used that phrase in conversation for years until one day, when I was nearly 30, got corrected by a Jehovah's Witness that came to my door and asked me if I ever read the Bible. I smugly replied I got the brist of it. It's funny how we don't realize the mistake and just take some phrases for granted. One redditor claimed that for a long time. He thought the following quote and the name of the figure who coined it, link knowledge is power, Francis Bacon, was read as knowledge is power, Francis Bacon. He had never seen it written down and never looked it up, and so believed that it was some weird phrase that was too profound for him to understand. Okay, here goes. I'm almost a senior citizen, but a couple weeks ago, I learned they actually laid cable across the Atlantic for telegraph. I was in tears when my hubby told me, because I thought he was joking with me when he said they laid cable for telegraph. I said no they didn't. That's impossible. But he was not joking, and cable was put between the continents. Then I got very upset because I was never taught that in school. We know all about it in Africa because RC cables for internet are always getting bitten by curious sharks or some deuce, and then whole countries are back to dial-up internet speeds. Sometimes for weeks. Eater, here's an old video of a shark biting a cable. Link, and here's the wiki article on undersea cables. Link. Eater, okay. I can't speak for all of Africa. Just South Africa. Eater, also, ship anchors, whales, and storms can damage cables. Eater, here's a map. For people who can't believe Africa has such limited redundancy, compare the number connections between New York and Europe, or literally anywhere else in the world. Link. Edit. Great. My most upvoted comment is about sharks biting cables. Thanks. It's still laid for internet traffic. I like there's two cables across the Atlantic carrying internet traffic between North America and Europe. My roommate was 21 when he learned that cows have fur. He thought they were just skin. Edit. Yes, technically cows have hair and not fur. Thank you for the great laughs and the awards. This blew up, and my roommate is not talking to me. But wait, did he think cows were like smooth tanned leather? Like a couch? Now I'm just imagining a cow that looks like a sphinx cat. Oh. Aged 40, I found out that segue and seg are different words. Guess who just learned how to properly spell seg? A segue gets you from here to there. A seg also gets you from here to there. I'm from a northern city in the US. In basic training for the army, I was asked by the chow hall lady if I wanted grits with my eggs/bacon/breakfast. I had literally never seen or heard of them in my life. I lived a relatively sheltered and somewhat ethnic focused dietary life. I asked her what they were, and she replied, well, they're just grits. So asked as politely as I could, are they an animal, mineral, or vegetable? Luckily, my new friend from Florida was behind me, heard the entire conversation, and said to me, they're just corn, somewhere between cream corn and cornmeal. He then said, if you put butter and salt on them, they taste just like butter and salt. Love that guy. Has probably a general now. Basic is where I learned that everything can go on rice. Gravy can go on anything. And if those are the only two you have, just eat gravy on rice. My grandpa used to take me fishing a lot as a child. He explained that any noise at all would scare the fish in the lake and ruin fishing for everyone there for hours. On a boat with my husband last month at the age of 28, I realized grandpa just wanted some peace and quiet. Edit. Some people are saying you really can't make noise. So I'll explain. My husband turned on the radio while we were out fishing. When I complained, he said, oh, honey, grandpa just wanted you to shut up. We caught lots of fish and made all the ruckus we wanted. Similarly, my elementary school teacher told us that we had to be very quiet once it started snowing because noise would make the snow stop. I continued to believe that for decades. He explained that any noise at all would scare the fish in the lake. Wait, isn't that somewhat true? Ruin fishing for everyone there for hours. Grandpa just wanted some peace and quiet. Oh. I thought an axolotl was a fantasy creature that didn't exist. I mean, you can't blame me. Just look up a picture of one and tell me that doesn't look straight out of some fantasy movie. Yeah, right. It looks like something out of the Never-Ending Story movie. But at least you are one of probably the few folks in the state/province/country who can spell and hopefully pronounce axolotl correctly. XD. That woodchucks and groundhogs are the same animal. I was somewhere in my 30s. My state called them woodchucks, so I never made the connection when I was younger. Edit. Thanks for the awards and fun comments. I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Wait. What? How much ground would a groundhog hog if a groundhog could hog ground? In college, I had a tough time trying to convince a friend that yellow dandelion flowers were the same as the white puffballs. I had to find a plant that had both stages coming from the same base. Edit. Dandelion time-lapse link. I have an ex who I could not convince that the yellow flower stage happens before the puffball stage. He just refused to believe me. As a kid, I used to think the black market was an actual place like a bazaar where all the criminals would regularly meet up. Me too. I actually thought I went to a black market once when I was way younger and visiting London. All the stalls had black sheets, so I presumed this must be the black markets. When I was young, I found a Doobie Brothers CD at a relative's. I asked my mom what a doobie is. She said it's a lady's private part and to never say it. I was 17 before I saw someone call a joint a DB. So did your mom just not want to tell you the truth? Or did she really think that? This just reminded me of when I was a little kid and my sister asked our teenage babysitter if she'd ever smoked pot. The babysitter got this super shocked look on her face and said that was a very personal question and you should never ever ask anyone that unless maybe you were married to them. I eventually figured out it's not considered a particularly personal question by most people and thought my babysitter was a weird prude. I was well into adulthood when I realized she just didn't want to tell us she'd smoked pot. I thought until the age of about 21 that when companies had S next to their name, it was estimated that companies were started around that time. It was only when I voiced my disgust profoundly to my then partner that it was ridiculous that no one knew when these companies were formed. And why were they all estimated? She just stared at me blankly for a moment and just went, established penny dropped real hard. You have greatly improved my evening with this story. The song I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus is not about creepy infidelity, but rather hinges on the fact that dads sometimes dress up as Santa, which I realized in my 20s when I brought it up with my Catholic roommate. I'm Jewish, and there's no pretense as to who gives you a pair of socks on the 8th night of Hanukkah. I was raised Catholic and also thought it was about a woman cheating on her husband with Santal Mayo. One day when I was like 26, it hit me out of nowhere that the dad is dressed as Santa. My granddad played this epic decades-long practical joke on me every Christmas for as long as I remember. He would put on Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, only the first disc, and he said it was a Christmas tradition. Every year without fail, he would put the CD on, regardless of if we were at his house or if he came to us that year. It was only at Christmas 2020, where I had Christmas without seeing any family due to COVID restrictions where I live, that I asked my housemate, do you want me to go stick on War of the Worlds now or later? Housemate looks at me perplexed. What, you know? War of the Worlds. My granddad insisted it was tradition only your granddad does. That I told him over video call Boxing Day. I never heard the old man laugh so hard. It's a family tradition now. When I was 4 or 5, my mother brought me home a balloon one day. Plain blue balloon with helium. I accidentally let it go and it flew away. Being little, I was devastated. Later that night she comes back from somewhere and tells me she was at the gas station and miraculously, my balloon just came floating by. Being a kid, I was thrilled and totally believed it. So fast forward 20 plus years. I'm on a date and we stop to get gas and we see a balloon floating by the gas station. Probably hadn't thought of that story again in all that time. So I start telling my date the story about how I had a balloon fly away and then my mother found the very same balloon at a gas station, and then as I'm saying it out loud I realized too late to not look like an idiot that of course it wasn't the same freaking balloon. I've never seen someone laugh so hard. My mom told us that my dad was going in to set the hamsters free outside, and he said yeah at the dump and she threw something at him. I was telling that story to someone much later when I realized they had died. I was typing it just now when I realized he just threw them in the garbage. In the image I have of him driving to the dump to throw them away is a half updated image from childhood of him freeing them. The last part is just from not thinking about it.